Welcome back to Turks and Jerks. It's time to go over the worst of the NFL, our Jerks segment, aptly spelt J-U-R-K-S, because we are also grammar jerks. Tracy, we're going to begin with you because I know you're bringing in one that I've been wanting to talk about for about 12 hours now, fuming over it. Who was your jerk of the week?
That goes to none other than Odell Beckham Jr., who is a petulant child who is allowed to play in the NFL. He is a talent. I take that not away from him. He is an amazing talent, but grow up. You are not a rookie. You cannot be crying on the sidelines in week 3. You cannot be getting into a fight with the kicking net that is then winning the fight. I mean, he is lucky he didn't get concussed and isn't out for a week. You can't have your quarterback, your receivers coach, everybody on the team's focus is now calming you down as opposed to winning the game. I think Eli Manning feels like he has to give Beckham a certain number of throws. It becomes a pressure situation. Grow up. No patience.
No patience.
Grow up.
No patience for Odell Beckham Jr., just like the net had no patience for Odell Beckham Jr.
The net was like, you're going down, buddy.
Take a look at some of those photos. What I found amazing is because you said the words, he was crying on the sideline like a child. He was also literally crying. He was so overcome with emotion and anger, whatever it was. And again, you even had Eli trying to calm down, like you mentioned. It is a distraction. It's not the distraction I want to compare it to, because some people were saying, oh, it's like when Dez would have a tantrum on the sideline, except they keep bringing this up, and it drives me mad. Dez's tantrums aren't about anger or what's going on. He's doing it to pump up his team.
Yeah, he's just the way he looks.
Screaming at his quarterback, screaming at his receivers, saying, we could win. Odell's literally throwing his helmet into what Josh Brown needs to get more accurate for kicking field goals. Francis, your turn.
No, I was going to play devil's advocate a little bit. First of all, I mean, I think that this is all part, I don't think it's coincidence that this happened in a game where he was put up against Josh Norman, who loves to try and get under players' skin, especially Odell Beckham, as we've seen last year. I thought that Odell Beckham still got the better of Josh Norman, right? I think that obviously at the end, the result didn't go his way, and that's clearly his frustration. But I mean, when you get players like this and they're so amped up and they're in that heat at the moment, sometimes playing in situations where I understand it, you get a little too heated. But you can't take it. There's nothing worse than taking it out on something that can take it out back on you. My go-to is I'd always kick the ball as hard as I possibly could, and sometimes I kicked it off a wall that was like 10 yards away from me.
Hit you in the face.
Right? No, not in the face.
No.
You can imagine where else it hit me, and it wasn't pleasant.
That's a nice message.
There's nothing worse about it.
Well, yeah, what Tracy was, I'm sure, alluding to is more the off-the-field distraction.
It's a
because, again, I don't know how much more proof you're going to start to need. Josh Norman is a very overrated cornerback. Ooh. I don't know how much more proof you can possibly need besides he won't, and you can blame a lot on Jay Gruden for how he lines up Josh Norman as a zone specialist cornerback, but I say overrated because he is not worth the money. And you can point him out as Jay Gruden as a jerk possibly too, because yes, Odell Beckham Jr. got more than the better of Josh Norman that game. He stiff-armed him, put him on the ground, spun around him, and ran for a first down in one of them, and then got blown by in that zone special coverage, leaving Odell Beckham Jr. wide open, a poorly thrown ball that he hauled in with one hand, which is one of the things that makes Odell Beckham Jr. special on the field. However, he won't line up against Antonio Brown. They put him against the second receiver when he is in the man-to-man coverage. He's having trouble covering the second-string wide receivers in the league. And as a zone cover cornerback, I don't understand what his impact has been in the Redskins' defense so far. So I find it that the other secondary members have been doing a better job than your highest-paid guy. So
it might have been a blessing.
Carried him too.
It might have been a blessing that he never got directly up against Antonio Brown one-on-one. The way Antonio Brown was playing in that game,
I think he would have been.
It would have been, we would have been burnt out. But I'm going to move.
Go on, go with your jerks.
From one New York team to the other, I'm going to talk about Ryan Fitzpatrick on the Jets. And this is someone who, by the way, week 1 and week 2 looked pretty good. I mean, against the Bills, the guy threw 374 yards, 24 out of 34 passes. So he was looking good. And then you have a 10-day rest period, and then you come back and you throw 6 interceptions, like 6.
Can we give Marcus Peters a little bit of credit for like 2 of those?
I understand
Could it be like 4.5 interceptions?
I agree. Right, it's true. Yeah, 4.5
Some of those
still
were amazing interceptions.
It's just like, it's at this point, I know it's early to call it, but it's the worst passing performance of the season up to this point. I'm sure someone else will go further and win it. Maybe he'll do it himself. But yeah, I mean, I understand that QBs are, I give a lot of credit to quarterbacks. I know that football is not my #1 sport all the time, but it is the hardest position to play in the world. I think that it is, that instinct you have to have. You need to change your decisions. But you could tell that Ryan Fitzpatrick's mind wasn't in that game at one point, and he was starting to feel the pressure that he was feeling. And I mean, throwing 6 interceptions at any point I don't think is acceptable, especially when you had such a stellar performance in a previous game against a sturdy-ish defense. So he's my jerk, man.
It's a good jerk. Ryan Fitzpatrick's a good jerk. Speaking of interceptions, one we could have added to the Turks segment, Patrick Peterson's interception this week for the Arizona Cardinals. It was the only bright spot in the entirety of the Arizona Cardinals versus Buffalo Bills game, which, by the way, in terms of like pick'em and gambling and that sort of angle, who stand up if someone had the Bills in that game?
No, I didn't.
Bruce Arians is confusing the living hell out of me. It was the one game I was so certain, like, oh God, the Cardinals, the defense is back. Patrick Peterson makes it. They looked lost throughout the entirety of that game in Buffalo, and I don't think Buffalo's that good of a team.
Yeah.
I really
They're
don't.
not.
They're not that good of a team. But Ryan Fitzpatrick, did anybody see the Bleacher Report photo? It was him with a blindfold on.
Very true. And the annoying thing about that is it's the closer team to my heart because I've been to San Diego a few times. With Arizona stumbling a little bit, I think the Chargers have the opportunity to go and extend their lead. They have the opportunity to prove everyone wrong that this inconsistency of the Chargers doesn't have to be there, and then they blow it.
But that's the Chargers. Like, I have no other way to put it. That's the Chargers. Besides the fact that, like, again, Andrew Luck, please, get him out of Indianapolis. Put him, just for fun, put Andrew Luck on the Bengals and watch how far they go. Just saying. In terms of my jerk, clock management. It's my favorite thing to talk about. It's usually Turks and Jerks panel's favorite thing to talk about. Dirk Cutter and Jameis Winston of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Could anybody for the life of them figure out what the hell Dirk Cutter's plan was? But what makes this even more special of a clock management failure is that there was a 67-minute weather delay for thunderstorms right at the 2-minute warning. So on top of everything else, they had an extra free hour to
come up with a
figure
plan.
out an exact 2-minute drill to get down the field and win the game for the Buccaneers. But they're at home, by the way. It's their home opener against the Rams, who once again could not find a way to put up more than 10 points. They were averaging 4.5 points a game through 2 weeks of the NFL season. Let's run through the plays, shall we? Because it's pretty damn great. Tampa Bay 44, Winston passes deep to Vincent Jackson, so it gets off to a great start. 16 yards, gets out of bounds. Clock starts again, 1:36 left, and he passes short right to Humphreys. Right, that's fine. 6 yards. Eventually short middle to Sims to the LA 27 for 7 yards. There's 1:16 left on the clock here. You have your timeouts. Maybe use a timeout. No, you don't need to use a timeout. Why not? We'll let the clock run down to 54 seconds. Why not? 1st and 10, no huddle, shotgun, incomplete. 5 seconds go off the clock. Clock stops. This is where it gets even better. 49 seconds are left. He goes short right to Sims again for 12 yards. He's in bounds. He doesn't get out of bounds. 49 seconds. And he lets it tick down to 21 seconds. No timeout.
And they had two.
They had two
And
left.
you had two. You could have burnt one. It's the most ideal situation to use your timeout. But no. Okay? We're at the LA 15. It's 3rd and 15. There's an incomplete pass where he knocks off 5 seconds. The best of the best, though, with 9 seconds left, Jameis Winston passes incomplete to Myers. It knocks 5 seconds off the clock. There's 4 seconds left. They finally decide to use their second timeout. Not at any point between 1 minute and 36 seconds and 4 seconds on the clock did you think to stop the offense. No, they did not do that. And then Winston, in appropriate fashion for how Dirk Cutter handled that 2-minute drill, is walking slightly forward, looking for a pass 6 yards past the line of scrimmage where he couldn't even make the throw and just gets decked from behind and the game's over. Dirk Cutter in his press conference afterwards was asked about that 2-minute drill and he said, you know, sometimes when I'm doing the 2-minute drill, I really like to push the envelope and just can't wait to get to the next play. That's your reasoning? You can't wait to get to the next play. You ran out the entirety of the clock.
Excited.
You understand, what's amazing to me is with those 2 timeouts, and at least better not throwing it over the middle of the field as much, just using even screen passes or letting the halfback just run out and get it on the sideline as a fail-safe instead of throwing over the middle of the field, you could have thrown at least 4 more plays. You could have had more shots at the end zone. Even more shocking was the one where he tried to hit Vincent Jackson deep, when you don't need to go deep when you're 25 yards away from the end zone. I don't get it.
Tell us how you really feel.
Well, it's amazing because Dirk Cutter is somebody who I like. I enjoy. I was happy that Dirk Cutter was made the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A lot of people weren't because he works so well with Jameis Winston. And that was the point, that these two had chemistry together, that he was going to make Jameis Winston, who seemed to show how great of a quarterback he could be, matured last season, threw for over 4,000 yards, and has thrown for 3 or more touchdowns in 2 of his 3 games this season. They couldn't get that done. And you question it. But again, the lightning storm that struck gave him an extra hour of timing to pregame, to plan this 2-minute drill, and they couldn't get it done.
All while the LA Rams are smiling and bandwagoners are smiling as well, because what a team that looked like their offense, well, I think that was what you called it in the first week, an offense or whatever they were putting up.
They didn't have an offense.
Scraped through. How's that possible?
Well, the Rams maybe turned around. They're 2-1, by the way, with Jeff Fisher, which means they still undoubtedly only have 5 wins left in them to finish 7-9.
They are the NFC West leading Los Angeles Rams at the moment.
The NFC West leading Los Angeles Rams.
The NFC West leading Los Angeles Rams at the moment. So
we're on top.
That's last.
The bandwagon teams.
Let's do it.
All right, like, favorite, subscribe to the video. We'll be back next week with some more Turks and Jerks. Make sure to follow everybody on their respective Twitters, Instagrams, Facebooks, and fun stuff. It's all in the description box below. See you then.